29th of October, 2025, 5:12 a.m., federal agents entered 512 Dwight Street, the state office building in Springfield, Massachusetts. According to court documents, the operation targeted Lamar Cook, 45, a Massachusetts state employee. Federal authorities say several agencies were involved in the raid, made up of the DEA, ATF, and U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Investigators had been tracking suspicious packages moving through government mail systems. Each package was sealed with the official state seal and marked as internal government mail. 2 earlier packages had already been stopped at Hotel UMass in Amherst, where Cook used to work. According to the investigation report cited by the DEA, agents mentioned the seizure of several kilograms of cocaine and firearms. The exact amounts will be specified during the trial. When agents entered Cook's office that morning, he had just signed for another package labeled State Correspondence. There, officers found another sealed package identical to the previous ones. They also discovered a 9mm handgun, 2 loaded ammunition magazines, and an undisclosed amount of cash. Everything was sitting on his state-issued desk. Cook was arrested without any resistance. He now faces 3 serious charges: trafficking large amounts of cocaine, illegal possession of a firearm, and possession of illegal ammunition. Prosecutors say the cocaine's quality and packaging matched cartel-level distribution operations. At his court appearance in Springfield District Court, Cook pleaded not guilty. His bail was set at $25,000 while the investigation continues. Authorities say they're still investigating and believe the operation may have involved other government offices that received similar packages. Governor Maura Healey's office released a brief statement calling the incident unacceptable and a major breach of public trust. The administration confirmed Cook was fired immediately. But as agents carried boxes of evidence out of a government building marked with the state's official seal, a bigger question arises: questions about the administration's internal controls and public confidence in institutions. This is only the beginning. Stay with us and share your thoughts below, because justice never stops, and neither do we. Hours after Lamar Cook's arrest, the story became much bigger than one man. Inside a mobile command center parked on Dwight Street, investigators launched what they called Integrity Sweep Phase 1. The target list included multiple state buildings connected to suspicious package deliveries, all linked to Cook's former communication network. Federal analysts from the DEA's Cyber Intelligence Unit examined files from Cook's government laptop. They found spreadsheets labeled snow lines, each entry showing a date, package weight, and delivery route. The shipments moved from Amherst to Springfield and finally to Boston. Every package had official seals, coded labels, and special courier stamps. Investigators now believe Cook's operation wasn't working alone. The courier system, originally designed for confidential government materials, had been secretly used to move cartel-grade cocaine under the cover of legitimate government business. Each package was worth nearly $1 million on the street, and for months they moved unnoticed through the very system meant to protect Massachusetts' integrity. A senior DEA official called it the most sophisticated misuse of government logistics we've ever seen in New England. Internal documents obtained by news outlets confirmed that at least 3 additional offices across Massachusetts are being investigated for similar problems. Those investigations remain sealed. By morning, the governor's communication team rushed to control the damage, describing the incident as unusual and not representative of state government culture. But the evidence suggested something different. It pointed to systemic carelessness, not just one bad employee. In a state where accountability has long been promised, this investigation is now forcing Massachusetts to prove those promises still mean something. If you think this was just one corrupt official, think again. Keep watching, because the evidence tells a much bigger story. What started as a Springfield investigation had become a statewide operation. By sunrise, Integrity Sweep expanded beyond Springfield. Federal authorities ordered simultaneous raids in Amherst, Holyoke, Worcester, and Boston. Cities now connected to the same courier network discovered in Cook's case. The goal was to find every government facility that may have unknowingly transported cartel drugs under official government seals. According to internal DEA briefings reviewed by news organizations, agents executed more than 24 search warrants between 5 and 7 a.m. across the state. Targets included regional offices, storage facilities, and private logistics companies connected to the Massachusetts state courier system. Investigators discovered duplicate vendor accounts, fake corporations, and unauthorized money transfers going through companies registered in Providence and San Juan. The transactions looked legitimate on paper with hospitality services and building maintenance contracts. However, the money trail ended in accounts holding over $4.2 million in unreported funds. Sources close to the investigation described the operation not as a drug bust, but as an infiltration. The cartels didn't force their way into state systems. They used the existing systems. Cook's credentials allowed him to approve interdepartmental deliveries valued up to $50,000 without additional approval. This power, meant for administrative efficiency, became an open pathway for smuggling. Each courier shipment, disguised as state correspondence, bypassed routine security checks through this loophole. By mid-morning, at least a dozen state employees were placed on immediate leave pending investigation. The Massachusetts Office of Public Integrity confirmed the suspension of multiple courier routes and announced audits across 3 departments. Officials refused to specify which agencies were involved, citing the ongoing federal investigation, but admitted the network was larger than first believed. Politically, the scandal spread faster than the investigation itself. Opposition leaders accused the Healey administration of systemic negligence. Supporters argued that corruption wasn't about political parties, it was cultural. Inside the State House, staff privately called the operation the sweep within the state. Court documents later revealed that 3 packages connected to Cook's network were processed directly through the governor's interagency mailroom between August and October. Each was logged, approved, and delivered without inspection. Massachusetts had built protections against outside corruption. It just never prepared for the day corruption would come from the inside. Within hours of the statewide raids, Beacon Hill was in crisis. Phone lines jammed. Staff whispered behind closed doors. The governor's office released a statement calling Cook's conduct unacceptable and a breach of public trust. But in Massachusetts politics, words don't move as fast as outrage. By the next morning, headlines across Boston carried the same message: the collapse of standards. Television panels turned the criminal investigation into a political breakdown. Governor Maura Healey, usually calm, faced cameras that afternoon, with exhaustion showing. "We are cooperating fully with federal authorities. The integrity of this office will not be compromised again." Reporters asked whether Cook acted alone and whether other state offices were compromised. She didn't answer directly, only repeated, "Ongoing investigation." For voters, silence sounded like guilt. Behind closed doors, the State Ethics Commission and the Attorney General's Integrity Division began what insiders called the sweep within the sweep. Personnel files were reopened, old background checks re-examined. Within 5 days, 17 state employees were suspended pending review. No charges, just suspicion. In government, suspicion alone can end a career. Sources say the atmosphere inside Beacon Hill became surgical. Laptops were seized, access cards disabled, entire offices sealed for audit. In Springfield, Cook's former office stayed sealed with tape. His nameplate was removed, but his shadow remained in every briefing that followed. Talk radio exploded with accusations. Opposition campaign ads aired by midnight, claiming Healey had lost control of her own administration. But some saw something deeper. Not just corruption, but a system forced to confront its own reflection. One veteran reporter said, "Massachusetts didn't discover corruption. It discovered itself. If you think this is just one man's crime, think again." The evidence shows a network built on loyalty, blindness, and trust turned toxic. Stay with us because the story is only halfway told. By the end of the week, Massachusetts looked less like a functioning state and more like a courtroom with city boundaries. The integrity sweep had exposed rot that no investigation could completely clean away. 17 suspensions, dozens of seized records, and the state's reputation now under national scrutiny. Inside the State House, the tone shifted from denial to reconstruction. Lawmakers moved quickly to draft the Public Integrity Reform Act, a bill creating an independent ethics oversight body with power to audit any branch of government without advance warning. It passed with overwhelming support, 72-3. A rare moment of bipartisan shame disguised as cooperation. Governor Healy, surrounded by exhausted advisors, announced creation of a temporary integrity task force. Its job was to review all contracts, courier routes, and hiring records across the executive branch. The team found more than 2,000 irregular transactions, not all criminal, but all negligent. An internal memo later described the findings as a culture of assumed honesty without verification. In Amherst, the former Hotel UMass, once a hub for the trafficking route, was converted into a rehabilitation center for addiction recovery. Officials called it symbolic, turning contamination into redemption. But residents weren't celebrating. One protester outside said, "We want accountability." Public anger had cooled into disbelief. A survey found that 61% of Massachusetts voters believed government integrity had permanently declined. Another 24% said it never existed to begin with. Meanwhile, the DEA's evidence room in Boston was filled with rows of cocaine bricks, unmarked cash envelopes, and confiscated weapons. 2.7 tons of drugs, 133 weapons, and $9 million in seized assets. Even after press briefings ended, the damage persisted quietly. Government offices repainted walls, reissued badges, rewrote policies. But the atmosphere still carried the lingering feeling of burnt trust. This just showed that in politics, recovery is never redemption. It's just survival with better lighting. At Hampton County Jail, Lamar Cook waits for trial. His lawyer repeats the same line to a weary press. "My client maintains his innocence." But for the people of Massachusetts, the verdict had already been given. Not in court, but in conversation. The court of public opinion needs no jury. Across the state, communities began building something quieter than outrage. Civic groups started independent audit boards. High schools added ethics and public service to curricula. Police departments opened quarterly reviews to citizen oversight. In Boston, on the one-year anniversary of the integrity sweep, hundreds gathered at dusk. No speeches, no slogans, just candlelight and silence. Families of overdose victims stood beside civil servants who still believed in public service. A woman in the crowd whispered, "We're still worth saving." In a state founded by revolution, that sounded like faith rediscovered. The final report from the Federal Integrity Commission closed with a line that read like an obituary for certainty. The Commonwealth did not fall to foreign enemies or hostile powers. It fell briefly to complacency, to men who mistook access for absolution. If you still believe integrity can be rebuilt, hit like, subscribe, and share this story.